This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey, it's Lemon's Car Spotting with Nick and Eric. Let's see what you weirdos have found on the street this last week. Oh, boy. Oh, man.
Whoa.
Studebaker, I think.
Two Studebakers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look, a second one.
That first one looks like it's the bullet nose one.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that the bullet nose, for good reason, takes all of the when you see a picture of one, it's from the front because the bullet nose is so wild. But let us not forget the weird wraparound window treatment and super long trunk that you've got going on in the back. I mean, these borderline, like, if you were to put headlights, would it look like the front also? I feel like it would.
Well, I mean, this goes back a couple episodes. I think we were talking about the Studebaker bullet nose truck conversion, and you know, we would love to see a bullet nose Studebaker and Lemons. Their body on frame, as far as I know, maybe they're early unibody, but I'm pretty sure they're body on frame, which means you can just pluck them off the body and drop them on a Crown Vic. You could do that with this backwards, and it would be incredible.
It would be amazing.
Yeah. Although the whole rear glass not being safety glass is slightly problematic, but nevertheless, these are solvable problems. So yeah, bullet nose in the foreground, and I think probably a late lark in the back or a hawk. They had the same kind of beveled grill, but yeah, what a pair. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Nice job by 714 Car Spotting. Did we ever find out where 714 is? It's SoCal somewhere, I think.
SoCal somewhere, yeah. I don't know exactly where.
But yeah, actually, as far also, I mean, the paint jobs, of course. And we've mentioned this before. A lot of art cars you see, the art is of sort of dubious quality. I mean, I know nothing about art, but I feel like the paint on these is kind of neat and well executed.
Yeah, agreed. Everything. Oh yeah, in the comments, it's a 48. It's a lark and a 48. So
there you go. Moving onward.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
This is me. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a Cougar, turn of the 21st century Cougar. If you didn't know, it'll tell you.
Yeah.
Ah, boy. I mean, this was sort of, we mentioned this in a previous episode, sort of the small to medium size, sporty-ish front wheel drive coupe was big in the 80s and 90s, and then just sort of died out completely. Cougar was sort of on the tail end of that, and it wasn't good. It was like the Cougar nameplate had been gone for several years. And it left us as a V8 rear drive arrangement. And then this was based on the Contour / Mondio, I believe. So all the hardware is that. I will say our long-running meme, Lemon's meme of Why You Ruin Classic, which is basically a car in terrible condition that is 2 steps away from being crushed. You post it on the internet, and someone in their mother's basement in their underwear will say, "Why you ruin classic," as if all these cars should be saved and not raced in lemons. One of the earliest Why You Ruin Classic cars was a Cougar. And it was, the guy was like, "Poor Cougar. Why you ruin classic." And it was somebody had taken one of these and turned it into a Lemons car, and somebody on the internet was offended. Yeah. I will say, I mean, these aren't good, are they? They can't be, but it might be a pretty good Lemons car. Parts availability is probably okay. You could put a V6 in one of these. I believe there was manual transmission. It's all Euro Ford stuff. So, you know, I think that it would be an okay Lemons entry.
Yeah, we've got one currently that does pretty okay. The Cougar Park one, very classy. But yeah, it's a 5-speed. I think all of the Cougars probably came with the V6, but I don't know that for certain. And of course, this one has been taken to the nth degree with the Wings Midwest body kit.
Yeah, it's gone to Wings Midwest for sure.
Oh man! And in classic form, is the fiberglass is all broken from probably a speed bump, as is the style of the times.
Yeah, absolutely. And or a raccoon.
That too. Oh man, cab and a half S10 minus the bed at the Lowe's. How are you going to haul anything from Lowe's without a bed on this? I wonder. Some interesting choices being made there. The hood has the beginnings, probably not the finished product, although who knows, looking at the general quality of the rest of it, of the cowl induction hood, which suggests it's a V8 swap, but perhaps an intentional suggestion rather than something they followed through on. And they've got also the spoiler on the back of the cab. So,
oh yeah, I missed that.
Lots of stuff happening there. Trailer fenders over the rear wheels for good measure.
It's got, occasionally you'll see somebody with a truck that makes it into sort of a mini tractor trailer.
Yeah.
And this has definitely some design elements of that.
Where, big mirrors on the side I also missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the big mirrors, sort of the flatbed with the little fenders. The wing is to direct airflow up and over your reefer trailer, while you're making that late night run to Georgia. So I believe that was the inspiration. But anyway, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, if you're going to do this for lemons, which by all accounts you should do this for lemons, sure. You need a straight trucker country theme from 1979.
Yeah,
CB Savage, the whole thing. So.
We've seen Smokey and the Bandit 100 times to the point where, we don't really want to see too many more of those. But on the other hand, if you were to use this, and actually, you should do Smokey and the Bandit with no bandit. Like, it's just like, this is just Snowman. It's like the Snowman origin story. You've got Snowman and the Hound Dog, and before he met the Bandit. That's your theme.
There it is.
Do it to it. Snowman's whole life.
Yep.
All right. Next up, it's a Justy, I believe.
Yep.
One of those confusing car names where were they trying to evoke that it is jaunty or trusty?
Yeah.
Or rusty. I would have liked to have been in the Subaru corporate boardroom when they did the focus group to figure out what will Americans react to, assuming that that's what they made the name for. I mean, they sold these all over, so maybe it sounds like the kind of thing, frankly, that would have been created for the Australian Subaru market, because that's where they've got the Brumby instead of the Brat. And if you've got a Brumby and a Justy, it creates a certain sort of product synergy, if you will. This one here, and Eric, as the resident millennial, I believe it's owned by a millennial because the front license plate says that it's lit.
Oh, I mean, that is certainly a way you could describe it. These were so weird. I mean, first of all, to this point, I don't know if Subaru had named any of the cars. I think they were all, maybe the Leon existed.
Well, we had. So yeah, you mean as opposed to GL,
DL,
yeah.
No, whatever.
Well, we never got the Leon here. It was never sold as the Leon. We had the Loyale.
I think that's what
predated the Legacy, which I think also predated this.
Yeah.
So, what was the first Subaru to have a name?
Yeah. Well, I
Tell
mean,
us in the comments.
you could certainly argue that it was the Brat, even though Brat is an acronym.
Right.
But
For bride by drive
recreational all-terrain, or good Lord.
Right.
That's
Okay, so
that is some
something
that
that's,
is
that's
I was just
not
gonna say that.
alphanumeric and is not an acronym.
Yeah.
What's the first Subaru name in the United States market?
Yeah. Brat is congressional levels of stretching an acronym, but anyway. So the Justy is the only, as far as I know, at least until they made the Tribeca, the only non-flat engine. It's a 3-cylinder inline. It had a CVT as an option in the 80s, which went about as well as you'd think it would. The ones that survived, I think, tend to be the 5-speed manual and front-wheel drive only, although there was an all-wheel drive version that I think probably still exists in Colorado. I know all this because my Lemons co-captain from back in the day, Alan Caesar, bought one of these and rebuilt a blown engine using possibly the last rebuild kit left on Earth. So I don't know, weird cars, even for Subaru, which was a weird brand at the time.
Yeah, they were around. I mean, these sold in okay numbers. It was like, you know how you always talk about, like, there's a weird nameplate that, like, if you were to bring it up, like my test for both like a car name and just like the model itself, if you're sitting around with friends who aren't necessarily real car dorks and you say, hey, I drive a blah, 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 like, do they look at you like you've got monkeys climbing out of your ears? And I feel like for a time, certainly that would be the case now if you said I drive a Subaru Justy.
Right. But
at the time in the 80s, if you said, yeah, I've got, a Subaru Justy, little Subaru Justy, people would be like, oh, yeah, okay, I know what that is. So they were around.
Yeah.
Now,
not
don't
so
admit
much.
You have a Subaru Justy. Oh, wow. It's a Subaru. It's a Subaru. It's a Subaru breaker.
Yeah.
It's a Studebaker truck. We talked about these a couple of weeks ago when somebody had converted a bullet nose Studebaker into a pickup. And I mentioned, hey, the regular Studebaker trucks are kind of neat. And if you doubted me, in your face, because look at this thing. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, that was Studebaker's motto for a few years. Studebaker, it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I assume these have the V8 that they put in the passenger cars also. I don't know much about them. This one's got some knobby tires, which is pretty sweet. I don't know. I don't know much about them. I just know they look cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, what was the Studebaker 6-cylinder at the time? I'm picturing that they had a flathead still.
I think it must have been a flathead.
So that might have been an option as well. And yeah, I don't know much about these either, other than that they look cool. And boy, with the proliferation of hot rod Chevys and Ford trucks of the same era, why not make it a Studebaker? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh, show.
Pretty cool.
Oh, good God. I mean, I know that's the wrong reaction, but anytime you see a Volkswagen kit car, it's just all you can think of is, well, because I am who I am and I'm a bit of a pessimist, as you might say, I envision these and, hitting a stop sign and it being a fatal accident.
Yeah, a fatal 14-mile-an-hour fender bender.
Right. And why do I say this? Because I've seen enough of these up close to know that they're built by people who have no idea what they're doing in general. Maybe that's unfair characterization, but amateurs assembling a car from a kit, boy. And, it's not like Volkswagens are especially structurally sound to begin with. Now, all of these things said, I have to cheat and look at the comments. See, this is an Aztec GT with gull wings.
Right.
I mean, if you show up at Cars and Coffee with this thing, people will gravitate to it because it looks incredible.
Yeah, I mean the advantage of the Volkswagen Pan and why there were so many kit cars made from it is that obviously engines in the back. The pan is just like a flat stamped sheet of metal, and you don't have to contend with these hard points of the cowl and all of this stuff that was getting in the way of you making a proportionally correct mini supercar.
Right.
And so that's why you had all these things. That's why it lends itself to the, in my estimation, second most amazing Volkswagen kit car of all time, which is the Laser 917, the most amazing being the Mini Camaro.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, all Volkswagen kit cars, we talked about it a lot. They're incredibly creative. Like, people just with the blank slate of that Volkswagen Pan were like, watch me do this. And then the next thing you know, Boonie Bug.
Yeah.
You know, and it was an amazing time. We've decided that we don't really want to see them in Lemons races because of the aforementioned 14-mile-an-hour fatal fender bender. But, you know, if yours is street legal and running, which seems to be a really rare state for a Volkswagen kit car these days, by all means, bring it to a Lemons rally.
Yeah.
And don't die, please.
Yeah. The don't die piece is important. We did have not one of these, but a kit car on a Lemons rally. And the driver had to fashion. He stole a traffic cone, mounted it to the roof, and then ran tubing down to himself so he could breathe, because what had happened was the fuel tank that is directly in front of you had leaked, but because it was completely sealed in fiberglass, there was no way to get to it to fix the leak. So he just had to have gas fumes pouring into the car and then, you know, go way up overhead to get fresh air to breathe. Not great. Not a good thing.
It's not an ideal system. I feel like I had some friends who brought an MG kit car, like the little TD kit car, on a vintage rally, and they leaned into it with, you know, they went and got tweed jackets and pipes and stuff. We're driving around. And so this was an open car, and I feel like they were dealing with fumes from somewhere. And yeah, it's the same thing. It's like the car's open, the engine's in the back.
Yeah.
So how can there be so many fumes in the cockpit, and yet they suffered with the same issue?
Yeah, so, man.
All right. Well, I've got the hooptiest for this week.
Choices.
Boy. I mean, we've dragged this poor Fiberfab Aztec for enough. I mean, it's certainly a candidate for the hooptiest. I'm gonna go with the Wings Midwest Edition Mercury Cougar, just because how long has this guy been driving around with the spoiler actively dragging on the pavement? Like, I mean, it's been months. It's like his neighbors are like, well, you know, Adam's home, because you can hear him come down the street, you know, and it's just been like, yeah, that sound is coming from your car, buddy. Like, do something about it. Like, don't act like you don't hear it, because the rest of us do. So yeah, and obviously windshield graphics for the extra touch.
Yep. It also, just want to point out that the rear part of the body kit also looks like it's falling off. Just for consistency's sake. Yeah.
Sure.
By the way, if you ran this for Lemons, I would say put a cage in it and just leave the front dragging until it falls off.
Oh yeah, you know, the one thing we don't mention about Lemons, we talk about safety a lot, and that is the one thing we take super seriously in Lemons. One thing that we don't enforce maybe as much as other series are things like smoking and minor dragging of things that aren't really going to damage anything if they were to fall off. So, so we find it kind of amusing to have something just scraping its way around the track. So if you've always wanted to do that and the SCCA won't let you, come to Lemons and we'll probably let it slide.
Yeah, bring a Cougar with a busted body kit.
Right.
That brings us to the Lemons build. Man, we got some good stuff. obviously the pair of Studebakers. I mean,
Yeah.
Studebakers have a perfect index of affluency record.
Two-car team. You could win 2 IOEs and back-to-back races with the 2 cars.
Yeah, slam dunk for that. But in the S10, I mean, trucker country theme, awesome. But we've never had a Subaru Justy in lemons, and man, just perfect for it. It's like a heavier, crappier somehow Geo Metro. So there you go. Bring that.
Yeah, I'm always amazed that within every batch of 6 cars, there's at least one and probably more that we've never seen actively participate in the Lemons race. And, this is from a mainstream manufacturer, Japanese, not super old by Lemon standards. So, yeah, bring yourself a Justy. Make it a Justy WRX.
There you go. Slap a turbo on it. What could possibly go wrong?
All right, that'll do it for this week on Lemon's Car Spotting. Keep finding that weird stuff, and we'll talk about it. That's totally lit, yo. You never said lit, did you, as a kid, like in high school, or people around you?
Just a little bit.